Welcome back, and thank you, and welcome to our studios, Mr. Lebowski.
Thank you.
Can I call you David?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that's for like a year I've been calling you Mr. Lebowski.
David's good.
Yeah, David. Welcome back to Guam.
Thank you.
How was quarantine?
Quarantine 3 months in the Philippines, and then which was crazy, and then 2 weeks here. So I don't know. It was okay.
Your son Azrael, who is a year older than Asher Dean, right?
Yes.
Can you tell our audience why he never comes back to Guam with you?
Azrael is afraid to come back to Guam. Last time I said, Azrael, we need to go back. I want you to go back to Guam, and he freaked out. He doesn't want to come back. He said, I'm not going to die. I don't want to die. So he refuses to come back. Come back to Guam. He's still, of course, he's still dealing with the loss of his brother, but he won't come back to Guam. And I'm not going to push it. Not now, anyways. Maybe in the future, but he will not return.
He's 9 now?
No, he's a 7 now.
Oh, 7?
Yeah.
Oh, he's tall. Well, you're tall.
Yeah, he's going to be 8. He's going to be 8 at the end of August.
Okay. Well, all right. So for the past year, we linked up, what was that, February or something of last year?
Yes.
To tell your story for the first time from
Yes.
With Kandit.
Yes.
And that was a very hard interview to get through.
Very hard.
A very hard interview to get through. And it was the first time that I heard all the details about what happened, and it was the first time our audience heard all of those details. A year and a half basically has passed now, and we've been trying to get the Guam legislature to reform the Medical Malpractice Mandatory Arbitration Act, which is what stands in the way of people like you from holding doctors accountable for their actions. And nothing's happened, basically.
Nothing's happened. When this tragedy first happened, and I found out about this arbitration act, this forced arbitration act, I had approached every senator, 15 of them, wrote them letters. 3 arranged to meet with me, in which they did. Senator Moylan, Senator Teletagui, and Senator Therese Talai met with me. And we had a meeting. And I got, I think, an email from one of them with the condolences. But none of the other senators ever responded, never got involved, never even sent an email back to acknowledge, but they received it. And there was also, I did some follow-up, and also I think that Guam Post did follow-up with them. So that was then. So here we are now. What's happening since then is, there were 3 informational hearings that
Yes.
Senator Talahi, and I thank her very much for that. 3 informational hearings that they had at the legislature, 3 different dates.
With a lot of interest from people.
A lot of interest
Yeah.
from people. Doctors were there, and so forth and so on. And it was 3 different dates. But as I recall, there were Senator Teller was there, Taitagui, and Senator Talahi was there. And I think and the speaker walked and was there for a while, and I think Amanda Shelton walked in and left. But as far as I can remember now, there were no other senators expressed interest. No other senators showed up, and I never heard from anyone. So once that ended, of course, I continued to follow up. I write things on Facebook. I put things on my son's celebration of Asher's page, and so forth. I put things in the newspaper, on your site, writing and whatever. And the whole idea is to keep people aware that we are on. I use a bridge. We are on one side of this bridge. We, not just the parents who have lost children, and there are many of us, but also those who have lost loved ones. Mm-hmm. Many people.
Or their loved ones have been butchered.
Yeah. And not just death, but as you said, like with injury and so forth. Since this all began, I get, on a daily basis, I hear a news story. Somebody will email me, they'll message me, they'll ask me my opinion, and that's great, because that's all in Asher's name and part of his legacy. But that continues on, and there's been no progress at all in this whole thing. And recently, as we start approaching elections, I started to contact senators again. and I contacted several of them already. I gave you a list, and I also contacted some of the new folks running for office. And I said, "What do you think about this? Do you have a position that we can know about for the election? What percentage of your campaign funds come from the medical the medical industry and so forth?" And no one responded except for Chris Carrillo, and I wrote to him 3 times, and finally I wrote something on his Facebook page, and maybe that's why he had to respond, and so forth. And
wait, can just on that point, real quick, new candidates. I'm a little surprised that you are. What?
He needs to get to the camera.
Oh, the new candidates. I'm very much surprised that, you know, for as much hype as we've given to new candidates, that you would let an inquiry by David Lubofsky go like this and not respond to him. How long has it been since you wrote that email?
At least a week, maybe more, maybe longer.
A week or longer.
And I'm going to be writing again.
To get even a simple acknowledgement that you received the email.
No, I'm sorry. All those were by Messenger, because they listed Messenger.
Oh, Messenger. Oh, okay. So guys, check your Messenger account.
Yeah, I think that they do, because they light up, and you can see that they've seen them, or someone's seen them, or maybe it's a staff person.
Well, we're going to ask them, because we're going to invite new candidates, and we're definitely going to ask them.
Yeah, and I've sent it to some senators. I plan on sending it again. And this is an open invitation to senators. What is your position on this bill? What is your position on this law? Do you plan on repealing it? Do you plan on adjusting it? Or do you just plan on letting us go on? Not just laws with children who have passed away or injured or whatever. It's all of us in the community. Almost everyone that I've spoken to, well, my mama, my dad, my uncle, my whatever, my cousin, everyone has a story. And it doesn't change. And why doesn't it change? I think it doesn't change because the people who can make the change, I'm sorry to say this, the people who can make the change benefit from keeping it the way it is.
How so?
Okay, let's take Louise. Let's take one senator. It comes to the top of my head. Louise Borja Muñoz. Based on the information that you came up with and the research that you all did, she gets a significant amount of campaign funds from the medical industry.
Yes.
She even gets money from a donation from Dr. Cruz, who's the head of the Guam Regional Medical Center, as an example. And they have many complaints up there, and they have malpractice cases for injury, deaths, and so forth. We have a veteran who's picketing in front of them. We have an invalid's father is there. It goes on and on. She gets donations. So what else can you think? I mean, conflict of interest and the appearance of conflict of interest.
Sure.
You know, even if it's not true, the appearance is clear. She gets money. She got campaign funds. She gets this from the doctors. So what benefit is it for her to all of a sudden stand up and say, we need to change this law? She loses a significant amount of campaign funds.
Yep.
Now, I could be,
and that's just one senator.
No, that's just one senator. You know, we're talking about also, you did research on Senator St. Augustine. Also, same. Gets I think about 20% of his campaign funds comes from the medical industry. Yep. There's no motivation to make changes when there's money that's behind it. Going back to Senator Louise as an example. Not only is it's blatant, but just think about the legislation that the bill she's just recently trying to pass. She's trying to make one doctor, one clinic as the provider for 3D imaging for breast cancer.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Yeah. What is that all about?
Well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same question. Now, I'm sorry, don't mean to pick on her, but I'm trying to raise it as an issue. And I think when you start going across the board, okay, then you have somebody else whose family is in the medical industry. And you have a person whose family members are doctors. And you go across the board. Those things become more important than providing for their constituents. When you become senator, you're supposed to put those things apart and think about your constituents. And the other thing is the law is really not even necessary, because As an example, Aetna Insurance has a clause, someone sent it to me, that says, if there's any problem with our providers, we reserve the right for arbitration. That's in their clause. Most insurance companies, maybe not in Guam, but in the States, have clauses like that. Okay, let's say I want to go see, my family's going to go see Dr. Shea, we're having a child. In his, I don't know if he has it, but he can put that in his clinic. Okay, if we have a problem, if there's any medical issues, we will go to arbitration. Individually, doctors can do that. SDA clinic can do that individually. We don't need the senators to come up with a public law that discriminates against the majority of people on the island and favors the ones who are providing donations to them. We don't need that. The doctors can do it individually. And maybe they don't want to do it individually because they'll be challenged on doing that. And instead, they scapegoat it and let the senators do it. We don't even need the law. It's not necessary.
Well, you've seen our coverage on not just arbitration, the MMA, but also on other issues where, like take, for instance, the insurance issue. The other big contributor to senatorial and gubernatorial campaigns is the insurance industry. And how many times has the senator tried to change the insurance rules in the middle of the year? Just the pervasive culture of corruption that in the government of Guam,
Well, that's also, when you speak about that, you're also talking about the birth of the arbitration law. The birth of the arbitration law is actually 40 years ago. Then that was found unconstitutional. Then it was rewritten 30 years ago. And the main people that pushed it at that time was Guam Memorial Health Plan, Jim Gilliam. He came and just going along with what he was saying. There's the health insurance companies. I think Francis Santos at that time was involved.
Staywell, is it Staywell?
Yeah, was it? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
involved in it, and they pushed this, and they said, "Oh, doctors are afraid to they're going to be sued for malpractice, and they're doing too many tests, and they're doing too much of this, and they're doing too much of that. So we have to have this law to protect our doctors." Translation: what they're saying is, at that time, they're saying the insurance company has to pay for all these tests, and we don't want them doing it. But they use the doctors.
But the cost of insurance now is cheaper or more affordable, right? For this malpractice stuff.
Yeah, malpractice insurance nowadays is a lot cheaper than
it was back then.
Yeah, because we have way more doctors
So
here.
times have changed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back then the problem with it, and I'm going by what Attorney Trapp said, who by the way who challenged the law and found that when it was found unconstitutional.
Yeah, the original law.
Yeah, the original law. Back then he said that that there wasn't enough doctors. That's why there's a problem with insuring. But he also said, which contradicts to what other people say, including Jim Gilligan. He said, "Well, there's not that many cases, anyways, malpractice cases. So the whole it was almost like they went to the doctors and say, we're doing you a favor. We're going to do this so you can't be sued." Some of the doctors, and this is a quote from the Guam Post. Some of the doctors at that time didn't like it. Other groups didn't like it. They didn't like it because it forced arbitration on people, but denied them right to jury trial. This was in the Guam Post when they did the research, and that's exactly what it is. So yes, big insurance companies are, of course. So when you talk about senators who are related to insurance companies, this is all part of it. They put these personal benefits ahead. Now, there's a lot of arguments as people can make, as you know. Oh, we can't get doctors to Guam. Oh, we can't do this. We can't do that. Those arguments are depleted. Those arguments don't.
Not anymore.
Yeah, those arguments are not true. That's the default argument that they're saying. Oh, we can't get doctors. Well, let me tell you, Guam doctors, on average, are the highest paid in the country. And I have a reference to that if somebody needs to see it, are the highest pay in the country. It's easy to get people to come to Guam. And the doctors that they're talking about they can't get to come to Guam, are we talking about doctors that have successful practices and they're making big bucks in the States and we want them to come to Guam? Well, I don't think they're going to be worried about $25,000 in malpractice insurance or whatever if they're that kind of a doctor, because we're going to be making money here. It's just the opposite. What the law has done, and you can thank the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, Nathaniel Berg and his crew about this, and I can give you many examples. What they've done is they've made it so it attracts people who can't work in the States or who have problems
Or
getting
horrible
insurance.
doctors
You said it. Yes, absolutely. And who can't work in the States.
who have 5 or 6 claims of sexual abuse under their belts.
That,
Come
exactly.
to Guam.
Yeah, come to
Practice
Guam.
here.
Berg knew about this. No problem. Come on out. Whatever his reasoning was. They ended up at Guam Behavioral Health, 6 different complaints. Finally, Berg and the board decided to do
Because
it.
he's the, just to be clear, he's the chairman of the Guam Board of Medical
Yeah, he's
He's
Examiners.
the one that allows you to
and they
practice.
license the-
Yeah.
They
the
licensed,
doctors.
but
Okay.
that's not the first time that they've done that.
I just wanted to be clear for our
Yeah,
audience.
yeah. Guam, Nathaniel Berg is the chair of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, and they're the ones that license people. And they're the ones, and I was at their meeting when they said this, we will accept any doctor that meets minimal requirements. Okay, what does that mean, minimal requirements? You're breathing, you pass the basic test, and so forth. Because what they've shown is they've taken people here who have histories of malpractice, and that's where the law benefits them. People with a history of malpractice can come to Guam, and that's not the only one. There's a doctor practicing, I think, still on Guam. He had a $300,000 case aside, medical negligence case aside against him. In the States, he was there. He had, I think, in 2 or 3 different places, he had medical negligence. The board saw it. I'm not sure if Nathaniel Berg was the chair of that time. The board saw it and said, no problem, come to Guam. Came to Guam, did the same thing. So the question that we have to ask ourselves, how many doctors on Guam now have a history of medical negligence from the States or someplace else and are practicing and we don't know about? This law protects them. There's no way to find out. Nathaniel Berg and the Guam Board of Medical Examiners is supposed to have that information on their website. And they're supposed to have had that information on their website for 8 years. So we don't have money, we can't do it, blah, blah, blah. No.
So the information that would tell people, like if,
Yes.
if you wanted to look up, is my doctor a quack? You would go to this website to see how many cases have been against this doctor wherever they practice in the States.
8 years ago, at that time, Senator Tina Munoz Barnes passed this law called Protecting Patients through Information Act. The purpose of it is that the Guam Board of Medical Examiners on their site or and other related sites would provide information about doctors who have complaints against them or have a history of malpractice or whatever. So in other words, let's say you decide to take your kids to a pediatrician and you don't know who to choose. You can go to that site and you can read up about it. That was 8 years ago.
I can tell you why that law was created, actually. That's for a whole other conversation. But interestingly, it has to do with Lulian Guerrero. But anyway,
No,
go ahead.
that law was created 8 years ago. And everybody said, kudos, Speaker, you did a good thing, except for one small problem. They never enforced it. The law just sat there. Every single year, the Guam Board of Medical Examiners sat there and never did anything, and our senators allowed it. So when we start talking about arbitration and this, that, you have to look at the bigger picture. Nathaniel Berg didn't want to enforce that law, didn't want to put it on his books. They're doing it now because we brought it up during the information hearings, but they didn't want to do it back then, and now we're doing it. Now they're starting to do it finally, but
So can we go onto the
But
website now and
this-
find our doctor's name?
no,
and-
there's
Not yet.
some information now. it's
And
not
this
clear.
breeds them strong arming people out of here. Good doctors that they don't like. The good
Like
doctor,
Dr. George Macris.
like the lady at GMH, the small
Dr.
lady.
Shimabukru.
Yes.
And I know another one right now, so I'm not going to say the name of the doctor. I just heard this, and I even spoke to the doctor recently, and they're trying to get him out because he doesn't buy into this whole this whole elitist attitude, this medical culture. He's not buying into it. He wants to treat his patients and do his own thing.
Dave, let me ask you. Let's say, because Senator Teresa Lahi, she was the one who led those hearings, right? So maybe she does have a bill that, it's going to come out. Let's say something passes the Guam legislature, the 35th Guam legislature, before the election, let's just say. And it was a good bill, and it reformed medical malpractice mandatory arbitration here on Guam. How would it make you feel, and what would your next step be?
Well, I'm a realist, and I know and I'm being practical. I know the law will never be repealed outright. It could be repealed, and businesses, medical businesses, could have their own on their books. They could say arbitration required. It could happen, but as a realist, and after going through all this with different senators and with the information hearings, and some ideas came up. Senator Tatakui had great ideas. So did Senator Teresa Lai. They have great ideas. But when it came down to push the shove, some bill came out of Senator
Barnes.
And they
I think she rushed to get some credit on it.
They asked me if they could put Ash's name on it before the bill came. That's another story. No, being a realist, anything that would change is so that folks who lose or are injured or lose family members, children, relatives, or that are injured due to medical negligence can go through a process, and not a process that's controlled by a conflict of interest on Guam. Even Mitch Thompson, who's the lawyer for all the doctors in the insurance company, his words were, doctors on Guam are not going to judge each other. He said that during the information hearings, and that's probably one of the only things he said I agree with. But that's true. So any law that comes up, and we did give, I gave ideas for laws, and a lot of people came. That would be good. I changed. I know it's not going to be a total repeal and have a nice day. No, anything that would be good.
I know that these senators think that. They know something's wrong with it, because the last time we published something and we said we're going after them, we received phone calls saying, hey, wait a minute. We're getting a board together so we can all get everybody on board, Mr. Lebowski and everybody, and let's get them in. So, and then it stopped from there.
When the thing dies down,
yeah,
they die down
yes.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they know that there's something wrong with this. But I think they're afraid because it all comes down to money.
Yeah, well, it also comes down to this. I'm sorry, Troy, but it also comes down to this. What I plan on doing as time goes on, I plan on publishing a list of those senators, like Senator Louise, and publishing a list and asking people if you're concerned about health care and improvement of health care and negligence on Guam and so forth in your family's health. These are the senators that you do not vote for.
They've been taking money.
These are senators who have been making money off the backs of patients who've had individuals who had dead relatives or people that are injured. They just washed their hands and walked away. And I don't care if some senators watch it. Oh, you shouldn't be saying that. Blah blah blah. Making somebody mamalo. I don't care about that.
But yeah, this is the point This is why I asked you that last question. As I want people to see that you really don't have any dog in the fight. That what happens when this law is passed? Let's just say it does. Let's say a whole repeal happens. It doesn't bring Asher Dean Lebowski back to life.
It doesn't bring Asher Dean Lebowski back to life, and nothing is going to do that. And it's hard for me to say this, but there's there's not two tragedies. There's one tragedy, losing my son. But then when the doctors say to you, okay, have a nice day, and walk out of the room, go wash their hands, and then go see the next patient with no accountability, it worries me. A doctor can kill 5 people on Guam, as an example, in a week, and there's no reporting. We don't know about it. So yes, it doesn't bring Asher back, but I've been through hell losing my son. And what it does is, I'll know that some parent, some father, some daughter, whoever loses a loved one, won't go through this. And if they go through this, they'll have a step that they can take where they can get a process to hold someone accountable. It's the same thing. Guam doctors are held to no accountability compared to every single person on the island and every single person in the country. They need to be held to some accountability. Imagine this. Imagine if you're a police officer, right, as an example, and you beat the hell, this going along with the national climate, you beat the hell out of somebody on the street, and then you file a report with Internal Affairs, and they tell you, well, you have to go through arbitration. We can't do anything about it. We have to do this, and that was it. People would freak out. They would freak out. Or what if they did an investigation of the police officer, and they spoke to the police officer, and he goes, oh, no, this happened, and then they made a decision and never spoke to you as the victim. That's the way the system is now. The Guam Board of Medical Examiners, as an example, is supposed to investigate these things for standard of care.
But they're not going to investigate their own. Yeah.
They won't. They investigated Asher's case. They refused to speak to me.
Yeah.
I was there
Yeah.
as his father. I argued with Dr. Miyagi, SDA, on day one to examine my sick child. I argued with him. Day two, I've got somebody that's saying, "Oh no, sorry, the doctors are busy today." Well, he's dying in front of them. I'm arguing with these people. Then Nathaniel Burke, who, by the way, has a conflict of interest because they all make money off the clinics, you know. So he goes over there and he gets their records and says, "Oh, the records look okay to me. Okay, that's it. No problem with this." Excuse me?
So do you know if anyone actually investigated the case when it was before GBME?
Yeah, Nathaniel Berg and the board, however they do it, they investigate it.
No, I mean a real investigator.
No, that's their idea of a real investigator. But the conflict of that is, and going back to Dr. Gill when she used to be a board member, she said clearly, she said many things, but she said we're setting up to have a peer review process. So in other words, if somebody gets hurt, injured, or killed by a doctor on the island, peer review means the other doctors do the same kind of work will go out and look and see what happened.
Yes.
They're not going to have an X-ray technician, a radiologist making a decision on what a pediatrician does. Imagine this. Oh, the clinic, no, we did everything we're supposed to do, the clinic says. And they said, okay, the clinic did everything we're supposed to do, there's no fault in this case. And they never spoke to me. I watched my son die in 2 offices. And they don't think they need to speak to me. That's what we're up against. That's the problem. So what we're talking about, it's not just arbitration. It's the ability they all want to cover for each other.
And these are the same people who make donations to these senatorial campaigns.
Absolutely. The full circle.
And the governor.
That's right. That's right. You got the donation of the Dr. Cruz to Senator Louise is a good example of that, and all the rest of them. It goes around and around and around. Plus, they have family members. One of the during the information hearings, one of the Dr. Yasahara, do you know him? He used to be he's a dentist, and he used to be the head of the dental board. I don't know if he still is, but he sat there, and his testimony stands up. He sat there and he said, "You know, I'm not here to." We're talking about the arbitration. He goes, "I'm not here to talk about the pros and cons of arbitration. Everyone else has already done that." He said, "The problem that we have on Guam is that we don't have governing boards that are impartial and that people can go to. If we did," I'm paraphrasing, "if we did, then we would have that a lot of the cases that would need to go for arbitration may not happen because these boards would be able to make impartial decisions." That's what he said. Senator Teresa Lai, he said, I said to him, "Your testimony is a breath of fresh air." That was her exact words to him. And you know what? He's absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. Because right now, we have governing boards, Guam Board of Allied Health, with members who have been on it for 20 years, don't even have ethical standards set up. We have the Guam Board of Medical Examiners who have conflicts of interest and refuse to meet with victims of medical negligence. They refuse. And that's what we have. That's why then you run over and you look at arbitration and you go, okay, where do we go? The board, medical examiner boards is the one that's supposed to take care of these things. On their website it says, protect the public. I'd like to know where that starts and where that ends, because it doesn't sound that way. It sounds like protect the medical community. We have great doctors on Guam. I want to say, I had the same dentist for 25 years. All my kids have been to medical on Guam. Every once in a while, when somebody is not appropriate. In Port Asher, we had somebody that was inappropriate. It didn't think his time. It was worth his time. So the issue is, and this the doctors keep telling me. I talk to many doctors, but they can't talk. They can't talk officially. The issue is, it's only a handful of bad doctors, a small handful, but it taints the community because the whole community runs around. because they're afraid of their own bottom line, maybe, I don't know, and protecting the bad doctors.
No, it's like the bad cops.
Yeah,
The-
same thing.
The good cops
The white-
protect the bad cops because they got the same badge.
White
yeah.
coat syndrome, I like to call it, and they protect it. They protect their own. They protect themselves, and that's really the issue. Do we want people on the island who injure or kill? And if we want to leave them here, shouldn't we investigate and find out what happened?
And shouldn't our senators want this reasoning to translate into law?
It's common sense.
It really is.
It's not like I'm sitting here and asking, "Oh, we need to do this." Or that. It's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit Asher. But people that are watching, they have kids. Let me tell you, you wake up in the morning and your child next to your child, and the child is dead, and the doctors never came in the room all night, and they go, "Okay, have a nice day to you." You know there's a problem in the system. It creates apathy. Cops who can do whatever they want, continue to do what they want. There's no accountability. They become apathetic. A doctor who can kill you in the morning and go back to work in the afternoon is apathetic about his work. It happens all the time. This is one of the reasons I believe if you want to improve medical care on Guam, you make doctors accountable. The same way you make cops accountable. The same way you make senators accountable. The same way you guys are accountable. I can sue. Yeah, somebody can sue you, but you can't sue a doctor.
Yeah. Someone did sue us.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that. I know. I saw that. You don't have arbitration?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not the one paying for it. Go for it, right? That's what this community thinks. I'm not the one that's going to pay for it. Go for it. But you don't have the money to do it. You know what I mean?
No. And you know what? When this first started, everybody kept, and I realized that I got carried away with it. Was, poor people are discriminated and blah blah blah. And they started talking about throwing Dr. Shane, those folks who wrote the law for Tina Moon and Blas, started talking about throwing peanuts to these poor people so they can take the first step. But the fact of it all is greater than that. The fact of it all is this law has created apathy. It's dumbed down medical care on Guam. And if people don't think it's true, go through what I went through and look at people who refuse to get out of bed to check on a 5-year-old who's dying. Or say, "Oh no, the doctors are busy. We can't get you a doctor." No, blah blah blah, and you have to run to the hospital. Are you kidding me? This is the problem. The law has dumbed down medical care. They're apathetic. They're protected. They can get away with it. And then when they have senators who are on the take, not all, senators who are on the take for whatever that means, family, insurance company, donations, whatever that means, they're allowing this. Until one of them maybe has the same thing happen to them, they freak out and and they do something about themselves. But that's where we're at.
Or they just have enough money to get their kid or their grandma or their mom off island because they don't want to deal with the doctors here. You know what I'm saying?
Anne Marie says if doctors were held accountable, many lives could have been saved. They'd be more careful and diagnose them properly. Monica DeVera says one day we should all do an interview together for Dave, Faye, and all others who've lost a loved one. Monica's story is also very sad. Rita Faye Bomba says credentialing for physicians should include peer review. Which you were talking
That's
about.
what
Having said that, GMH, GRMC, as well as Naval Hospital can account for this concern. God bless you, boy. That was Zaya, right? Not you. Better not be that Corvette. I'm just kidding. So Monica says never give up.
I never will.
Well, obviously, because it has been 1.5 years since at least we had this conversation, and all you've done is become more informed. You've informed more people. You've been You just don't stop advocating. And again, you don't have anything to gain from this.
No, Asher brought me to the table. Asher gave a face to this when I realized it. But then, and the loss is unbelievable for me. But then I'm looking at the corruption. It's corruption. This is corruption. This is clear corruption. These are the people that we elect that's supposed to protect us.
Absolutely.
And they're not. And you can go through it, who's getting those donations and what their reasons. It's corruption.
It's just all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know will it change or it won't change, but for sure, I'm never going to stop. Every time there's a new case that pops up, somebody sent me, I put it on one of my websites. I post it. Doctors, I post it. You got the veteran who's marching around out in front of Guam Regional Medical Center, Jim Mansfield. He says that they did stent surgery on him without his permission. Now he's in all kinds of pains. You got Annalyn Lagrimas, his father, who's been in the hospital for a year because of mistakes according to what Annalyn said they made, and he's been as bed sores, not getting any better, and he's been there, and they don't know what to do about it. And then they banned her from going to the hospital because she spoke out to the legislature or wherever else she spoke out.
Yeah.
And they banned her from seeing her father as a punishment. And you know why they can do that? Arbitration. And the list goes on. Baby Faith, my God. That little baby was just born. They kind of ignored her. So when they talk about, let's go back to the way it was, and do all the tests like we did in the past, and so Asher would still be here, Baby Faith would still be here, and many of the others.
Monica's son
would still be here. If they took time and said, okay, let's do it. Dr. Miyagi, my son is sick. Can you do something? He's here for a wellness exam. Wellness exam was a full exam, blah, blah, blah. He goes, no, we can't. They're not going to monitor him. He's sick. You need to examine him. No, we'll just blah, blah, blah. And I walked out the door. As I was walking out the door, after arguing with him, I almost turned back, and I see myself still, to this day, turn back and start screaming at him. And I thought, well, if I do that, I might get arrested with my boys and blah, blah, blah. So I said, oh, okay, I'll just go. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. I should have gone back into Shisha Miyagi and said, you need to examine him. I'm here for an exam. I'm paying for a wellness. He's sick. Examine him. And that's what a lot of people are afraid to do also. They're afraid to go in and yell at their doctor and say, no, I want him examined. And part of it is the insurance companies are saying, and there's protocols in the clinic. And that's a story in itself. The insurance companies say, no, we're not going to pay for all these tests because you didn't have a reason. Yeah, his fever was down, but he's had a fever off and on, and I gave him fever medicine. So examine him. A CBC would have showed that my son was, CBC, basic blood test, would have shown my son was in trouble. It would have shown without, or examining him with a stethoscope would have shown he was in trouble. I could hear it. I saw it. I was with him. And so forth. But this is the problem that we're running into. And no one cares. The people that are elected, they don't care. They don't care. They might think they care. I think Theresa Delahaye cares because she did all of that. But when it comes to push the shove, you've got people who, like Tina Munya Barnes, let doctors write the new law. What a joke that is. Yeah. It's even more restrictive.
Yeah. It really is sad. There's an election coming up in November. There's a primary, but it's just inconsequential except for the congressional race. Oh, Congressman Mike St. Nicholas came out to support the position of medical malpractice reform. Yeah, he made that public statement with us. So that, that's a good thing. But this is a local issue that we're dealing with here, and it really is our senators and our governor. There's an election coming up in November. We're going to try and get the new candidates to say something about this issue. You tried. We're going to try. We're going to reach out as well. Because we have to ask them about this and other issues. And we're going to continue our fight along with you.
I appreciate that very much.
Not a problem. Is there anything you wanted to add, Dave?
No, I could go on and on all night. Once I get talking, I don't like getting on camera. But once I start talking, I don't know when I'm on camera. It's like never. But I thank you, and I thank everybody that's watching. And I just
you got a lot of people watching.
Those of you that might doubt about this, as I start to say earlier, there's two sides of the bridge. It's the side of the bridge that we're on now, who have dead relatives or children and relatives, and we went through this. And there's the side of the bridge that you're on, and you haven't experienced this. And I've had people cross over to the bridge and tell me, I didn't know what you were going through until now. I mean, that's how much time this has taken. I don't want you to end up on our side of the bridge. That bridge is arbitration. We need to get rid of it, make people accountable. If somebody can kill your kid before lunch, wash their hands, go eat a tuna sandwich, and then see another child with no one knowing about it, that's just not right. And that has to change. That has to change to protect your families. Really. Thank you.
You should have run for senator.
I only have an interest in one issue, and the issue is that parents and family members don't suffer the way I did, because people I've spoken to, like all these kids, as an example. I have their names here. Like remember Aiden, as an example. You got Aiden, medical malpractice. I think that was FHP. Asher. You got Baby Faith. You got Joaquin. You got Charlie. You got Anna Grimace's father. The list goes on and on. This wouldn't have happened if doctors did the extra tests that they were told they don't have to do anymore, because they're not going to be sued because of arbitration, which creates apathy in the medical community. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Candid Land, for joining us tonight. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm half Johnny Rosario. Sorry, guys.
And this
That's yourself.
And this is
And this is Asher.
Asher Dean.
and Zaya's over there. He's the one who was coughing
And sneezing.
and sneezing.
Making all that noise.
And our producer, Eric Rosario. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.